Happy birthday, dear Daddy. Happy birthday to you.
Yay!
Oh, hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters. My name is Jennifer and this is my knitting and nattering podcast where I go on and on about things I've been working on lately. It's only been a week, so I don't actually have that much to show. One of the cats is eating cat food just behind me. So if you can hear the crunching, that's what that is. Hi, welcome. If you're a new viewer, thank you for joining me. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming to hang out with me for a bit. Coming back, and yeah. Today is the 26th of January. I know the date again because yesterday my oldest child turned 9. Everybody's birthday's in January except mine. I'm in May. I have to wait a bit. I do have tea. I've just made it, so it's probably still pretty hot. Still pretty hot. It is Turi Tea Earl Grey from a tea company in Turi that my husband really likes. And I couldn't find my regular Earl Grey, so I took one of his fancy Earl Greys. And then his, like my regular Earl Grey was just right behind the kettle, so I don't know how I didn't find that. I don't have a lot to show you today, but I do have a finished object. I knit a hat. I'm sat right by the window, so the light is a little directional. It's not even sunny out. It's just overcast and bright by the window. And if you're a check my floats kind of person, I suppose I can just turn the whole thing inside out. I wove in the ends and trimmed them, but not very short. And then I realized afterwards, after I washed and blocked it, that I hadn't actually woven in the top one. There's the floats, and here's the cats. Look at all those cats. This hat was knit for my 9-year-old. It's a little big for her. She wore it a lot, and then yesterday for her birthday, she got a store-bought, machine-made acrylic hat with a pushing logo on it. And that hat has supplanted all of her other hats in her heart, at least for the time being. These are cats. It's from the book Cat Knit by Marna Gilligan? Gilligan sounds much better, doesn't it? If you like it, then you ought to knit a cat on it. There's the pattern. I've had this book for a little while. I think it's really cute, but when you have a child who's completely obsessed with cats, I mean, she did that like Nebula cat over there as well. When you have a child who is completely obsessed with cats and there is a cat knitting book and you are a knitter, then you kind of have to go with it. The yarn is from Black Isle Yarns. That is a local yarn dyer. I'm here. And that's the Black Isle. So really close by. She sources local fleeces from local flocks and then hand dyes them. And this is Aachen, which is a blue-faced Leicester yarn in sport weight. So yeah, it's really soft and fuzzy. And as I mentioned, it's a little big for my 9-year-old. Nice bit of slouch there. She picked blue, white, and pink as her colors, and then decided she wanted the light gray as her main color and the blue as the next main color. So that's the way the colors have come out. Having finished that with the yarn still in my bag, I wound up the purple one. I got this at Glasgow School of Yarn back in October. So I then caked up the purple one and cast on a whole bunch of ribbing. That was a cat going out the cat flap. A whole bunch of ribbing to knit this hat. And this is the book that Julie, the dyer behind the Black Isle yarns, she commissioned the patterns, and I'm out of words. There they are. For the Auken yarn, and I just dropped the bookmark, which was keeping my place. Sorry about that. Yeah, the yarn, all the patterns in there use the Auken yarn, and I had been almost to the top of the little trees. There are two different colorwork charts that are kind of alternated, which is why I have different stitch markers. So there's little trees and big trees, and I got almost to the top of the little trees and realized I was on the wrong row. For the big trees, I'd missed a row at the beginning for the big trees, so I pulled it all back. Now I'm ready to go again. I don't know if I'll do purple and then pink and then blue, because I was thinking that would kind of look like a sunset where it's darker, closer to the ground, and still like pinks and stuff in the sky, and then the blue. I saw the hat is the other way around. It's the pink at the bottom, and then the purple, and then the blue, which obviously is a gradient shift. I just heard someone outside, and I don't know if it's my husband coming back from his walk or something else. Anyway, I will decide in a bit what I want to do with that. And then I should have yarn left over, and I'm hoping it will be enough. I didn't plan this very well. I didn't do any bookmarks. Hold music. These mittens, and they're knit right side out, so you knit the whole thing, and then you turn them inside out so the pearl texture is on the outside. And yeah, I'm hoping to have enough yarn left over to knit myself a pair of those mittens. I remember what else I worked on this week. Haha. I'm hoping to have enough yarn left over to knit the mittens, but we'll see. I mean, if I just need to get another 50 grams or even 100 grams to make it work with the scraps of the other colors and stripe them all together, I am not averse to that. And I know Julie did just update her shop with a lot more of the Auken. She had closed her shop over Christmas so that she can enjoy Christmas with her family. Christmas in the break. This is a little gray girl bag, which I picked up last year, the year before, in the after Christmas sale. There's the tag. I kind of wish it had a handle, but I wish all bags had a handle. And other than that, I think it's really lovely. Hold on while I go get the other pattern. Not pattern. Okay, project. I'm back, and I have an Oliver with me now. He's down here. I'm assuming he's off camera. I know when I look at it later, like there's more on the sides than I can see right now, but he is off camera. Yes, so I have an Oliver, and I found my other project, which is my first, the left Broughton mitt. And I actually went in and I started by weaving in all the ends except here at the cast on edge, and then for joining this bit, because I wanted to knit the lining first. So I knit the lining. You pick up at the cast on edge and then knit the inside and then the flappy bit. And I went to try it on. I spent like a whole day picking up the lining and then knitting it, which is fairly straightforward. And then you have to go back and knit the thumb, and it feels too small. Like it feels not big enough. And then I was very, very sad. I am knitting the small size because I cast on for the medium size and I got a little bit in and I was like, these are just enormous. And I think now they wouldn't be so enormous. I mean, they're a little tight circumference-wise, but they're really short lengthwise. And this isn't a tight knit, but I would like to maybe knit a little topper to go in so that the top is as warm on my fingers as the rest of it is on my hands. But I don't know, like when I tried them on and they don't fit comfortably, I don't know if that'll block out. I mean, I can probably block, I could either block width or length into it, but I don't think I can make them any skinnier, and I would definitely need it to be longer. I don't know. I should finish weaving the ends in on this and block it and see what I can do. Because yeah, that's disappointing. But I did finish this. I cast this on around a year ago, sometime last February or March, when the store-bought mittens I had kind of dissolved. They weren't, I think they were handmade, but I bought them in a shop. See, that's so much more comfortable, and my thumb feels too tight. I'll probably just give them to someone else with smaller hands, cold hands. I don't know, but it took the joy out of working on these. I mean, I could rip them back and start over. I need to figure out what I'm doing. There's my yarns in there. They're all phenol yarns, which I ordered from Isolde before the Isolde shop went away. I've dropped them in. I don't know. Rip them back and do a bigger size, knit them for someone else. I really wanted these mittens, but I also kind of wanted them before it gets really cold this year. It's January. January is usually our coldest month. It has not been a cold January. February is usually pretty cold. Last year it snowed and was really, really cold for like 2 weeks in February. And I bought a sled and we were in lockdown at the time. We went sledding in the hill, and there's a really tiny hill not too far that way. And that was really nice, but that's also when I noticed that my mittens were dissolving. My lined mittens. Anyway, this project has gone to sit and think about what it is doing and why it is such a disappointment. It's not the pattern's fault. I mean, the pattern's lovely. It's an Isolde Teague pattern, Broughton mitts, and the yarn is great, and it's just I knit the wrong size is the problem there. Oops. I have one more whip to show you, which is my second pair of Fairy Light socks. I knit it with green contrasts, and then I still had 50 grams left, so now I am knitting it with red contrasts. I've done the toe and cuff, and I just need to do the heel, toe, and I'm working on the cuff. And I think when I've done that, I will set it aside for a while and I can finish it. See, same size. I can finish it next year in November or the first week in December or something like that. Or after Christmas, because I won't work on it and then it'll be January and I'm like, oh, I should really just finish these, which I did with my other socks this year. Although I hadn't, I mean, I had cast them on the year before, but then I wound up pulling them out entirely and starting over because I was going to do different things. Yeah. Also in a little gray girl bag. I've had this one longer. It has a handle. These handles are a little big for me, but you know, everyone has a different handle preference, which is why I've kind of started making my own bags so I can get my platonic ideal bag, which no one else is really going to make for me, are they? Just have a little bit of a dry tickle in my throat. I don't know why. I don't feel like I have a tickle in my throat at all. And then I sit down to talk to you, to have a wee blether, and suddenly I'm all froggy. I did my Joan sweater. All I did was literally pick the project up and run the needle through the second sleeve stitches, and I haven't even knit a single row on that. And I did maybe 2 rows on my crochet blanket. Not enough to show you. I mentioned last time my Marvelous Monthly Minis blanket that I had ordered yarn to replace it. Helen of Giddy Yarns, they had electrical issues and she had to take all of her tubs of yarn and, you know, have them stacked in the dining room. And so she couldn't get to any of the tubs and hadn't been able to get the yarn I ordered out, you know, like to find it in the tub to be able to post it back because they were all just stacked out of the way so the electrician could come. So those haven't arrived yet. And so I haven't finished that either. I do have one acquisition. A little bit of tissue paper, sorry. Jennifer, you'll say, you said you're trying not to buy things this year. This is last year. I did a Kickstarter for Celie McWheely, moving into I think it's a bigger shop than the one she had been occupying, a shop and dye room in wherever she is. She's somewhere in Scotland and I can't think of what it is, but she did a Kickstarter and it was for Zodiac themed yarns. So I got this little pin badge, which is sparkly and lovely. And then I got a skein of yarn and I kind of looked to see what colors were associated with different signs of the zodiac. And obviously different people have different ideas about that. I'm a Gemini, my birthday's end of May. And it sounded like that was kind of a yellow-green chartreuse kind of territory. Not my colors. So I went with Sagittarius. And this is a bit more, I mean, I don't want to say lilac-y, but a bluish purple. A bit more lavender. And it's a 55% British Blue Face Leicester and 45 mulberry silk, 400 meters, 100 grams. It is so soft and so shiny. And I'm thinking neck accessory. I mean, this is really something you're going to want to keep close to your skin. So yeah, this came and I'm very excited. It did take a while. I mean, the Kickstarter took longer than they had hoped. The dyer's name is Katie, Celie McWheely. It did take longer than she was hoping it would take. There were issues moving into the shop, and then they got coronavirus and, you know, the way life is right now. But yes, I did the Kickstarter. I did that. I unfollowed her on Instagram so that I don't buy more things because her yarn that's my first Celie McWheely yarn, but I have been admiring it for a while. She does some lovely colors with fun geeky names. I absolutely am a pick the yarn based on the color, not the geeky name. but I do appreciate geeky names. So I can appreciate that is a geeky name recommending a friend kind of thing. That's it for knitting and acquisitions. Oh, I can do, what am I wearing? I have dungarees on under this, and then I was still cold, so I put a cowl on under. So the jumper does fit better tissue paper. The cardigan fits a lot better than it necessarily looks like on the screen right now. Hand coverings, like I said, I'm really, really cold. This is Ripplecraft's yarn. I don't remember. I think it's they were both 50-gram balls, and I think it's the regular BFL, but I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure this is a discontinued teal, and then it's just the undyed yarn. I got them in a set that was meant for another pattern and didn't do it. And this is a pattern, it was Anne Kingston and another designer whose name, I'm sorry, I didn't know that designer at the time, and I don't remember who it was now. They decided to do a knit along, which they did annually for different patterns for a couple of years, but this was the hand-to-hand one, and they each designed a 2-color mitt, and then they'd done it with plug-and-play numbers, so you could pick which, it was a mystery knit along, you could do which cuff, and then which back of hand, which palm, which thumb, and then which cuff and bind off at the top. So I did the corrugated rib with the lice stitch. I did the mosaic color work for all of it, actually. Back of hand, thumb, and the front of the hand. This is a really soft yarn that, I mean, it almost, like the first time I wore it, it went fuzzy. And then I did the corrugated rib and lice stitch again for, and the mosaic thumbs. I really do mean to go back and do, I mean, I'd probably still do the corrugated rib and lice stitch because I really like how those look. But the other one was a stranded colorwork design that wound up being a snowflake. That's really pretty. And at some point I will go back and I will knit that version as well. Possibly in something a little harder wearing. I mean, pushing the stroller, pushing kids, I don't do that anymore, but there's a lot of years of pushing the stroller, pushing kids on the swing at the park, all sorts of stuff. I'm pretty tough on the palms of my gloves. But yeah, they're pretty. I don't wear them the most, but I like them. Also Ripples Crafts yarn. I think this must be a DK. I think this was the DK Merino, which she doesn't do anymore. And it's a cowl pattern. I don't remember the name of the pattern or anything. I think this colorway is Weathered Fairy. Very much oil slick color. She does a darker version that's even more oil slicky. I love it. I have more, if not this yarn, this colorway on another base. And then my cardigan is a custom fit pattern made out of Blacker Yarn's 3rd birthday yarn. It was the artist palette one. I have 2 more sweater quantities of this. I bought some and fell completely in love with the yarn. So I remember like at Christmas, so I bought more and then I won some in a giveaway. A couple skeins of the pink in a giveaway. And then they had a Christmas sale on the yarn, so I bought a bunch. And then when they had their final clearance to get rid of the yarn, I bought more. So I bought one of each color to start with. And then, yeah, I swatched it and I was just like, I need this yarn in my life. It's holding up really well. I finished this before the pandemic. So it's also stretched a little more horizontally than it vertically maybe should have, but I mean, there's a tiny bit of bobbling. I think I shaved it once in 4 years. I love this and I will absolutely get to knitting up. I know I have a sweater quantity in the purple and the pink, and then I have all the colors. There's a yellowy one, which is the one I used to swatch with because I figured that's my least favorite color. It's kind of a chartreusey yellowy green, but in a colorwork yoke, it would look really pretty. Like it would help the other colors pop. But yeah, this is absolutely next to the skin, soft and wonderful and lovely. And I know whatever you just finished most recently is the one you reach for the most, which is why it's my love notes recently. But this cardigan is, I just love it. And I got the idea for the color block placement from Knitting Expat, Mina Phillips, way back when she was still living on the island, and now I can't remember what, when she was still living in the Middle East. She knit an Icelandic wool jumper and she did color blocks in similar colors, and I liked the way it looked. So when I did this one, I knit it that way. I miscalculated the yarn because I did small stripe, big stripe, small, like small color stripes, big cream stripes. And then I realized I'd bought the same amount of yarn in all the colors, whereas obviously the undyed one, I was going to need more. So I reversed it on the sleeves. So it's bigger stripes of the color, smaller stripes of the gray. I'd originally worked out the color placement so that the bands of color would have, like that was supposed to be a blue stripe, but since it was going to be a different width stripe anyway, I decided I wasn't that bothered. Yeah, this one was a lot of planning and it's gorgeous and beautiful, and I love this jumper a lot. It was not a just cast on and follow the pattern at all. Although with custom fit, like you just follow, you get one size, that's your size, and then you can just follow the pattern. But I worked out, like, here's how many rows my jumper is, so now I need to divide it into even sections, and where is that going to put me in the pattern? And I mean, I did so much work, and then I got to do the sleeves, and I'm like, oh, well, half of that isn't any good anymore. So I had to redo the sleeves, but I don't mind. I don't think you really notice right away. Like, I don't think you consciously notice. And I think it means everything looks perfect and wonderful anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. Brings us to life stuff. It's only been a week. Did I mention last week that we had a notice for Catherine, pigeon flew by, for Catherine's nursery, that they had a case of coronavirus and all the kids had to do a lateral flow test before going back. That would have been last week. Tuesday night we got that. And yeah, so I lateral flowed her and sent her back Wednesday. She was having a play date that afternoon with her best friend because she didn't get to do anything the week of her birthday. So yeah, she had a play date planned for that day. So she had a full day at nursery. I brought the two girls home. They had a good play. Took her back Thursday. She was only doing a half day. And when I picked her up, the teacher at the door was like, we've kept them outside all morning. They've been playing in the garden because there's now 3 cases. And I was like, oh, 3 cases. Thank you for letting me know. So I kept her home Friday. And then Friday afternoon, right before it would have been pickup time, they sent out an email saying there were even more cases and they needed everyone to do a lateral flow right away and email them the results and isolate until told otherwise. They'd contact everyone again and let us know what was going on, which happened to the house across the street. They've got kids who are roughly the same age as my two. And that was right at the beginning when Omicron was first going around. and one of the kids in one of their classes had Omicron. So the whole class had to isolate for like 10 days. Even though they were, even though they'd been testing negative, they still had to isolate for 10 days because everyone was still so worried about Omicron then. Apparently, the government doesn't care at all about Omicron now. So if you have unvaccinated children in school, you know very well that this is still an ongoing problem, but the government in the UK, Westminster, has basically decided they're done and they don't care anymore. And everyone else just go on as if 500 people weren't dying every week. The number might be down to like 450 now, but it's still, 10 people would be too many, honestly, right? So yeah, that was Friday. And then Sunday, I think it was Sunday, we got an email saying they were convinced, they weren't worried anymore. They didn't feel the spread was continuing. They felt it was contained, whatever that means, and that everyone should just watch your kid for symptoms and otherwise send them to school as usual. So I PCR'd Catherine and myself, and our PCR test didn't come until Monday. We don't drive, so I can't go to a test center. It came Monday. We did them. We sent them back. And then I got the results Tuesday. We were both negative, so I thought, okay, I'll send her back to nursery. And, people have had a couple of days to keep testing their kids. So if there are more cases, hopefully they've sorted it all out. So Tuesday, I get an email from the school that my older one, whose birthday it was that day, that there was a case in their class and she wasn't considered a high risk. She wasn't considered a close contact. So, just could everybody kind of lateral flow your kid and keep an eye on them for symptoms and otherwise keep sending them to school. Turns out the not a close contact child in question is my kid's, one of her best friends who sits across, like you and me here, they sit at the same table facing each other and, talk to each other all day long during class and all that kind of stuff, breathing right in each other's faces, but not a close contact. So I just, that to me is part of the problem. The people deciding for me what we need to worry about are not giving me information about, I would consider not a close contact to be a kid who sits on the other side of the room. Someone she's not known to ever particularly play with. Whereas one of her two best friends in the class sat at the same table as her. To me, that's at least a moderately close contact. So that's where most of my frustration is coming from. It's the amount of information you get, I think, is entirely designed to make it so that you can't make good choices for your own family. Anyway, because with Catherine, I'd been lateral flowing. The three of us, I just did all three of us. And we did the PCRs. So I'm confident, at the very least, I'm confident this other girl didn't get it from us. Because her mom says, she's not in any activities right now. It's just school's the only thing they've been doing. So yeah, at least I'm reasonably confident she didn't get it from us with a case we just didn't notice. Although if Christina is asymptomatic and not testing positive on tests and still spreading it, then I don't know how I could do anything other. So anyway, there's probably someone else in the class who had it, and maybe other kids will get it. I don't know. So that night right before bed, there'd been an email saying, earlier in the day, there'd been an email saying that the nursery didn't have an out-of-school care because they were short-staffed. And I said to my husband, I'm like, well, that's probably because one or more of the teachers got coronavirus with the outbreak the week before. And then sure enough, right before bed, we got an email saying there had been further cases in the nursery, not specifically in her classroom. So the teachers, because the teachers go between the classrooms not so much within one day, but like one day you'll be in one classroom and the next day you'll be in the next classroom. And then the after school kids are all in the same classroom. There's 3 nursery classrooms. So, I mean, like trying to keep it, they are trying to keep the kids separate, but it doesn't really work out. Ideally there'd be better ways to do this. Anyway, so yeah, there's more cases in the nursery. And it's very frustrating. I've been reading a lot of think pieces from, or, editorial stories, whatever, from the US where people like, if you have a kid who's under 5, they're not vaccinated, they're still in danger. Everyone else is treating them, like you're being so silly. But here in the UK, it's the under 12s. Though on Monday, I got a phone call to take Christina, my older one, in to get vaccinated. So later this week, she has an appointment to get her first jab, and then I can relax a bit more. I mean, not relax fully, but at least she'll have some protection, more protection than she currently has. I did ask if I could. I'm like, oh, well, I've got 2 kids and I can't leave the 5-year-old home alone. Can I get her jabbed at the same time? And they said they're not doing 5-year-olds yet. But no one else I've spoken to has had a call to go get their kids jabbed yet at that age level. So I don't know if they're doing it alphabetically. Our last name it starts with an A. I mean, well, it's the title of my podcast, so it's not like I'm keeping a big secret. But yeah, my podcast channel, we're the beginning of the alphabet. It's all I can think, because I know some people with older kids and people with kids the exact same age who haven't been called up yet. Anyway, having a kid right now is really scary and frustrating because people are treating them like they can't get sick, and like everyone else, they say if you're fully vaccinated and wearing a good mask, your chances of getting it are fairly minuscule, and they're treating it like that means the chances of anyone getting it are fairly minuscule, and it's not true. And I can only imagine how frustrating it is for people who can't get vaccinated and have no hope. Like, if you're someone who cannot get vaccinated full stop, then that must be just terrifying and frustrating and infuriating, the way this government is currently treating everything. I said to someone else, like, I'm so angry about so much in the UK right now. I will not be surprised if I crack a molar. It's just, what are you angriest about today? I don't know. I should probably cut out most of this. It was Christina's birthday yesterday. I hope she likes her gifts. She at the very least liked her new hat. And she got a new pusheen, and she got a bunch of pusheen stationery because she likes stationery and she likes pusheen in roughly the other order. And yeah, I mean, it's just, I've been doing it on my Instagram stories. So if you follow me on Instagram, same username, you'll have seen the ongoing saga of COVID outbreaks at the schools. And it's just frustrating. But the good news is that my oldest one, Christina, has an appointment to get her first vaccination jab. They're finally vaccinating the under 12s here. And hopefully she'll have a measure of protection soon. And yeah, that's kind of where we're at. I hope you are having a good week and it is as safe as you can be right now. Lots of squishy, yarny goodness. And I will talk to you next week. Okay, thank you for joining me. Ooh, like and subscribe. It helps me find new people to hang out with, and that makes me feel really warm and fuzzy. So if you want to do me a warm and fuzzy, like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye.